Hey guys, a quick update on the blog, and we're going to find out today the origin of this piano. And next to me is my close friend, mentor, teacher, Craig Najjar. How you doing, Craig?
Good, Joe. It's always good to see you.
So when did we first meet? I'll tell you where we first met,
okay.
when we first met, and see if you
okay.
remember. It was I met you at Berkeley, my second year at Berkeley. I decided to shift from drums to piano as a principal instrument. And I got you as a teacher, and they decided that year that even though your major instrument is my major instrument was drums, I still had to do a proficiency in piano, and they decided that year.
Okay.
All I know is I had to learn a Bach piece, a jazz piece, all my scales 4 octaves, and all I knew was a couple of chords. And
Yeah.
I had to do that, and that was awesome actually.
Well, let me tell you what I remember.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember. You playing different things for me, and I remember thinking that this is one very talented guy.
Oh, gee.
And so it was a pleasure for me, honestly, and I mean this sincerely, Joe, to work with you. Because really, the word teach essentially means to extract. You don't really give somebody something. You sort of pull out of them what they already have and what they already know, right? Mm. So, and in that process, and I say this, from my heart, really, that over the years, there's no question in my mind that you became my favorite drummer of all times. And I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great people, and I put you right up there with the best of the best. So it's been, and then for you to end up working with the songwriting and all of that, it's been a pleasure, really. So
thank you very much. Along with getting the piano chops, I guess I decided to leave Berkeley to concentrate on what I needed. Yeah.
Right, and that's when we went crazy with the piano and the songwriting, and we were talking about production stuff, and I think I had you doing all of those song analysis, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It was like a 20-page report. Whatever the
hit songs, on hit songs.
Hit songs. You want to write songs. You study the current trends, and it was a 20-page report every week. Yeah. Write out the melody, write out the lyrics. Is it doubled? Is it tripled? Their harmonies and unbelievable tools that I still use today. I'm able to sing harmonies for people. I'm able to sing piano. I play piano tracks for people. Play bass. Play drums. I can survive in this business because of many of the things you taught me.
Thank you.
You made me bust my ass 6 to 8 hours a day, every day.
And you still talk to me.
I do. It's 3 lessons a week. 3 lessons a week, and 6 to 8 hours a day. My father thought I was insane.
Well,
because every key sounds the same to my dad. He doesn't know there's 12 of them.
Okay.
But anyways.
Well, no, I mean, there are definitely common denominators between hit songs. And particularly you could track that in the 70s and the early 80s with disco alone. I mean, everything was written with a quarter note equal 120. So if somebody wrote a song and it was quarter note equals 160, it wouldn't work in that genre.
Right.
So you need to know what you're doing, and that's what I think, accomplished with you for sure, pal.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and then you made me go on. You didn't make me, but you strongly suggested to call up a publishing company in New York, make 2 appointments, and go down there and see them.
Yeah.
And I was like, what, 19, on a Peter Pan bus.
Oh boy, I can tell you some.
That's great advice to give to somebody. If you call them up, make an appointment, and go there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this business is about doing it. That's what it's about more than it's not like taking an accounting course where you're required to have a CPA and meet this criteria. This is about knowing the business, and the thing about this business is that it doesn't exist in any particular place, or so you have to know what's going on with the trends. You have to sort of create it yourself, and then figure out what your niche is in this phenomenon, because that's what it is. It's a phenomenon, and so what happens is with most young music students is that they have an idea of what this business is, and the only way to get them from not being delusional is to put them in the business and say, figure it out yourself. You know, go there, talk to a publisher, talk to ASCAP, talk to BMI, talk to, you know, the copyright agency so that you know your works are protected. Do these things because they're really not that big a deal once you know what they are.
Right.
But, you know, if you have a fantasy of what these things are, then, you know, you're going to, without a doubt, go down the wrong path.
I was in the market for a baby grand piano. So I visited a couple of piano shops, and they educated me on baby grands because I figured that's what I could afford, you know. And then I went to the piano mill, and they were very, very nice. And I went and sat down at, they have, who's the flamboyant piano player? It's Liberace.
Liberace.
So I sat at Liberace's piano at the piano mill, and it's got whatever, rhinestones or something all in it. And it was a Baldwin 9-foot grand, and I thought, this sounds great. And so I was a little confused as to what I should be looking for a piano. So I'm driving from Rockland, and I called Craig because I figured he would know what I should look for and what a good price is and all that. So I said, Craig, I think I'm going to buy a piano, and I need to know what should I be looking for. I'm thinking of the Yamaha. What do you think I should be looking for? And he said,
and I said, are you serious? How soon do you need to get this? Because I had a situation where my house had burnt down, and fortunately the piano was okay, but I had no place to put it, so it ended up in the Lexington Music School. And they ended up needing more real estate there. So I was actually in the car on my way to find a home for this piano when you called. And I said, how soon do you need it? And you were like, well, and I said, if you can make a decision like right now, we can do this thing. So that's where this baby came from.
And then I went up to listen to it. Me and Mike went up to listen to it.
That's right. You guys came up.
So we met at the school.
Right.
And exactly what I was looking for, a bite, rock, nice and bitey. This was exactly what I was looking for.
This is not exactly a baby grand.
No, this is as big as it gets.
Yeah, it's a 9-foot Baldwin. This was built in. This one here was built in 1960, and I got this in the 90s from a guy that he had purchased it. It was sort of a sweet story, really. He had purchased it. He thought he was going to do these things with it and learn to play it, and decided to put it up for sale, but he wasn't sure. And I went up to see him, and I talked to him, and he was like, I'm going to sell you this piano.
Nice.
So we went from me to Lexington to you. You know, what I loved about this is what you can't get in a smaller piano is the bass that this thing, you know, just because the length of the strings are just, they're so much longer that you have, you know, that much more sound, you know. And plus with all this wood, of course, you've got a much, you know, bigger soundboard, so it's going to produce a lot more sound. Sometimes these can be tricky to record because there's just so much sound, and you need to really figure where the mics need to go. But when you get it, there's nothing like it. You know.
Now I'm finding that out.
Yeah, and that's why if you go to any symphony, you'll always see a 9-foot piano. You will never see a 7-foot piano, because it fills the whole auditorium.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So speaking of the sound and miking it, I've spent, well, we had it here October, I think this was delivered in October.
Sounds about right.
So I've had, and what is it now, May? So I had 6 months or so to experiment where to put the mics. I'm actually using SM81s right here.
Okay.
I've tried all different kinds, but those ones right there.
You know, depending on the style of music, Joe, you know.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Mike O'Reilly, who was the chief engineer for Atlantic Records for 30 years with Arif Martin, this morning, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about miking pianos. And he just did a jazz album over the weekend where he said what he did was he still had the piano open, but he threw a cover on the thing and mic'd it that way, and he got these great sounds. So, you know, there's endless possibilities.
It is.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I found a six microphone technique too. Two stereos there, stereo pair where the bass is, because there's a stereo image of if you're facing it.
Right.
There's a stereo image here, and there's also a stereo image there, and then I use two room mics over my head.
Okay.
And it's perfect. I'm always experimenting, but I got a nice sound for this album, and so this came into my house.
Awesome.
And I was
I'm so glad it did.
Me too. I'm glad I could do that for you.
Me too, Joe.
Yeah. So that helped me decide what I'm going to do for the next album. I decided I wanted to make even though some of my songs are sort of guitar, I want to have this a theme. I want this to be on the picture of it. I want it to be a piano-centered album because I recorded this thing and it sounded so great. And, I've discovered over the years when I lay down a drum, bass, and piano track that it's kind of done. Like piano, even more than guitar, will fill the middle and the sides. The drums does it this way, and the bass is bass.
Yep.
And it's enough.
Well, if you think about it, right? If you think about like an orchestra, essentially, you have piccolos, which cover that range. Then you have flutes, right? Then you have violins, and you got cellos and basses, right? But on the piano, you've got the whole orchestra. It's the only instrument where you have the entire orchestral range. Which
that would explain why.
That explains why.
So, I want to go in that direction. I want to, and we talked about this before, but set some limitations on this album. Like when the Beatles did theirs, they had 4 tracks,
right?
And they had limitations, and we know what they did.
Yeah.
And so a piano-centered album, I want, and in recording this, I had to get used to like the hammers going, and this thing going, and
But you want that.
I want that. Yes. I want that between real drums, big fat real drums, real bass, and all the nastiness, the cool nastiness that comes out of that. I'll show you some tracks tonight, but they're exploding with sound.
That sounds great.
This is a side on the side towards the low for the API. No EQ. And this is 2 ribbon mics over my head. And I've never had the opportunity to, in my own studio, record a piano, and I'm listening back and I'm like, wow, this is done.
It's interesting how it works. At the end of the day, it's all about the song. But the instrument inspires the musician.
Yeah.
Right? So this could sound okay or great, but at the end of the day, it's about the song. But if the instrument doesn't inspire you, then it's not going to be there.
Right. And the songs have taken a long ride too. I mean, these songs have been tested through performances and picked the best 10 out of
no better way.
A lot of songs. So the songs have taken a long journey to where they are. So why is the album called Priscilla? Why have I named this piano? And while it's here, we'll give it a name.
Okay.
I named it Priscilla, and I do want to make this album cover to be, instead of Baldwin, it was Priscilla. So when I first moved into my house, I moved here 2 years ago, and then I met the guy who used to live here a long time ago, 30 years ago, and he said, "Did you know that your house is actually 300 years old?
Wow.
That it's the original blacksmith of the Marshfield."
That's so cool.
The founding whatever blacksmith. I don't even know what a blacksmith does, but somewhere he says there's the company blacksmith's name is written in my house, like somewhere.
Really?
He just wants to come in. But anyways, he said, so yeah, that's the original blacksmith is in your house. Your house is actually 300 years old, and have you met Priscilla yet? And I was like, who? Priscilla. Have you met Priscilla? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, you will. So what do you mean? Oh, you'll know what I'm talking about. You got a ghost in your house, but she's friendly. Don't worry about it. You'll turn, you might see her, or something weird will happen, and this is when we key the But we have had occurrences. We have had the first 2 months when we moved in here that we woke up to the faucet running full blast. The fans shut off at night on their own.
Really?
And my wife might say this story, but she was sitting at the couch in there. We have an M for Merrick on the wall.
Okay. It's
on 2 nails, pretty securely. She said it was projected off the wall.
Joe, I'm leaving, man. I mean, it's cool to be here and everything. It's good to see you and enjoy the piano.
Yeah. Projected. And Gracie said last night, actually, she's like, Dad, the door opened and closed by itself.
Really?
Yeah, I just downplayed it. It's like, oh, it's the wind, you know, and I'm like, how much did it open? She's like, it opened all the way, closed, and then opened again. I was like, oh, that's no big deal. I'm thinking, shit. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Oh, God help us.
So anyways, if there is a ghost in here, and I think there is, but we'll name it Priscilla. It's a cool story.
Okay.
You know, so is that all right?
That's okay with me.
While she's here?
That's Priscilla.
You know? Okay.
Yeah. It was clear to me that he wasn't just playing the drums, although you'll hear me say that he's my favorite drummer. His approach musically encompasses so much more than just sticks on the head of a drum. It's his musical ability. He's able to actually turn the drums into a melodic instrument. That's what he does that I think most drummers don't do. So that's my fascination with Joe as a drummer. A while back, I had gotten a call from the former president of Paramount Pictures who was going to be doing a movie, which got postponed. And him and I, his name was Earl Letts, him and I discussed the movie. And my first call was to Joe and said, listen, you know, I think this is something we could do together. When I came here, of course, he pulls out his guitar and then he pulls out his bass and, you know, he's recording music and he's engineering and he's producing. And I've had the pleasure of watching Joe develop over the years, from seeing him, meeting him as a teenager, fighting with me quite a bit for many years, but we still loved each other in the process. And actually watching his songs develop into these pieces of art. And he has evolved into this phenomenal songwriter, bass player, guitar player. Everything he plays is so appropriate for the song that he's recording. It's almost as if he's streaming everything. It's so well put together. You know, one of the things I love the most about what Joe is doing is if you compare most of what you hear on the radio today, like all synthesizers and pre-programmed and, you know, nobody plays anything anymore. Everything's a loop. Joe is still doing it the old way, where you feel something in your heart, you pick up an instrument, you have a tear in your eye and you write the song. And that's probably one of the things that I respect the most about what Joe has accomplished here. He's still very organic. It's a very grassroots approach to music. It's real. It's all about the feeling. You know, a lot of the music, the way it's recorded today, is you have drum machines and you have loops and you have all of these verses and chorus that come with your computer now when you buy the computer. But Joe's writing from the heart, which is an amazing thing. And in fact, his whole approach has been from the heart, because he didn't do it in a traditional sense where, you know, he got a record deal and went to New York or California. He did it all on his own. And I had the pleasure of watching that entire experience evolve, you know, where he was, you know, drumming and then playing in different bands and then became a husband and then became a father. And, you know, I could see his life getting very complex, and yet he still manages to write these great songs. And his songwriting is really all about everything he's doing. It's all connected.
JoeMerrick.com